The White House is accusing China of unfair trade practices regarding semiconductor chips. A filing from the U.S. Trade Representative says this, quote, "For decades, China has targeted the semiconductor industry for dominance and has employed increasingly aggressive and sweeping non-market policies and practices in pursuing dominance of the sector. China's pursuit of its dominance goals has severely disadvantaged U.S. companies, workers, and the U.S. economy. But Trump administration is delaying new tariffs on Chinese chips until June of 2027. Now, China responded to the filing and the accusations, slamming the U.S. for abusing tariffs and surpassing China's industries, adding that China will, quote, safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. I want to bring in former World Bank and IFC outside counsel in Beijing, Katie Zacharia. Katie, good morning to you. Your response to kind of this dichotomy of how the U.S. seems to be handling the Chinese. On one instance, we're saying that there are abuses there that need to be addressed. On the other, we're delaying the tariffs till 2027 on chips. Explain that.
Well, it looks like President Trump is trying to very effectively steady the market, steady negotiations with Beijing, allowing companies to onshore and recalibrate the semiconductor industry. And so what he's doing with Xi Jinping is there is this threat in June of 27 of an increased tariff, but there's also this period of time for negotiations and this recalibration. This is on top of President Trump negotiating a very incredible deal with Micron for $200 billion for research and development for our own semiconductor industries in Virginia, Idaho, and New York. And so it looks like this kind of defensive and offensive tactic where Beijing has dominated the market for so long and has enjoyed that, yet it has come at the huge cost of American companies. So President Trump will leverage this and hopefully land a great deal between he and Xi Jinping on the semiconductors.
We have another issue with China, which I'm going to ask you about, and I'm curious your thoughts as to what this means for the upcoming summit between Xi Jinping and President Trump. So the Pentagon is sounding the alarm in its annual report to Congress on security developments in China. The Department of War wrote this: China's top military strategy focuses squarely on overcoming the U.S. through a whole-of-nation mobilization effort that Beijing terms national total war. China's historic military buildup has made the U.S. homeland increasingly vulnerable. China maintains a large and growing arsenal of nuclear, maritime, conventional, long-range strike, cyber, and space capabilities that are able to directly threaten Americans' security. I wanted to get your take on this because there's a really interesting deep dive of this in the Journal this morning. Can Trump's Navy match China's? And maybe we're talking about the issue with Taiwan, and that's one issue. And I know that the Department of War has also warned that it looks like a strike on Taiwan could be happening. It could be this year, maybe 2027. But you do see the president really moving to at least bring the ships, the U.S. naval ships, into the new age, into the new century, possibly because of the China threat. What do you make of that?
I completely agree. It was no accident that President Trump released the Golden Fleet, the Trump fleet, ahead of this Pentagon report, especially highlighting the naval capabilities of China. China not only has this growing arsenal of maritime, but they're able to blend naval and civil. And China has the capability to manufacture, I think it's at 232 times greater than the United States, warships and civil ships. So President Trump is absolutely correct. In the United States needs to be able to get ahead and start competing with China, because China has not stopped for decades, while the United States has slowed its pace on building up our naval ships and really building up our military. China has doubled, tripled, exponentially increased its military capabilities. So the Pentagon report, especially after living in China for 3 years, it was very concerning to me, and I'm so grateful we have President Trump getting ahead of a lot of this, and I hope and pray that it can be a bipartisan effort from the Democrats and Republicans to really get behind him and develop our military on this, Cheryl.
Well, I think, again, that warning that I read to you earlier is kind of the key point here, that this threatens American security, in particular with the military buildup that the Chinese are doing. And all of this, of course, ahead of that summit with Xi Jinping that's coming up later, in the spring of 2026. Let's change gears. So there's been some developments in Ukraine, and I want to talk about this with you. This happening overnight. So President Zelensky noting a successful meeting with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. He said in part, quote, "We discussed certain substantive details of the ongoing work, real security, real recovery, real peace are all what we need. Ukraine, the United States, Europe, and every partner who helps us." Now, Politico has a deep dive on the updated deal and what this means for the Donbass region, and that basically the goal here is it would be a demilitarized, free economic zone. This is what Zelensky wants. Neither Ukraine nor Russian forces are present, and the United States does have a role. And this would also be a bigger piece of the security guarantees that Zelensky is asking for from the United States. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it looks like, I mean, President Trump and Witkoff are going to be able to find a deal for all of them. I'm not sure if Moscow is going to agree to those terms just on a preliminary view of this, but I do think that they will ultimately come to a deal that's going to, I think probably at the beginning of next year. They're working aggressively around the clock. If this is Zelensky's, idea that he's floating, I'm sure Russia will come back with a counter on this, and maybe they can find a happy medium on the solution, Cheryl.
Well, the other question, too, is that there's this power plant that the Russians have really been targeting with their attacks. And again, this goes back to the energy story, especially when you've got new sanctions on Russia. You've got Western Europe moving away from Russian gas. I mean, those energy exports are what's key to keeping the war machine of Vladimir Putin going. So if you have this nuclear power plant where maybe the U.S. runs it, it's hard to tell from you're reading between the lines here. But this power plant, it's the Zacharia nuclear power plant. This is also a way where I think Zelensky is proposing you have Russia, you have Ukraine, you have the United States kind of working in tandem to secure this nuclear power plant.
And maybe you can also bring in another actor that is able to kind of be a neutral party. I don't know if you bring in Turkey or you bring in another country that can. It's not just the United States, Ukraine, and Russia, but another group that can, another world leader, another country that will be able to help stabilize the region. But it's also important, and President Trump has emphasized consistently that Europe has to engage in the solution for Ukraine and Russia, that it cannot just be a United States solution, a United States managed, maybe even nuclear power plant, but that there's multilateral agreement among all nations regarding this.
What is on your radar for 2026? Of all of the international headlines that we've all been following, what is number one to you? What's the one thing you're going to be watching next year?
Man, I'm looking at what is this defense report with China, and again, I'm very prone to looking at China as a dominant national force. If President Trump can you look at headlines across with the New York Times and all of the media, and you look at them kind of this not really coming out and supporting President Trump in his initiatives and his drive to really remain a world dominant leader and continue putting pressure on China. I look at China as one of the key players, as the actors that we need to continue pushing back against. While President Trump has maintained a very open relationship with Xi Jinping, and he's clearly indicated that he's willing to work with them, they are also still hostile and adversarial to us, and their interests want world domination. So you look at the Panama Canal, you look at the chips, you look at situations like China going through Brazil all the way through Peru, and maybe even circumventing the Panama Canal negotiations altogether by creating their own train across South America. And President Trump is continuing to do these, offensive, defensive tactics with China, but they still remain, in my mind, while he's solving Ukraine, Russia, while he solved 8 other conflicts in 8 months, we have to continue kind of at this readiness against China, Cheryl, because I do think that they are moving and advancing very quickly. Yeah. And if we don't start competing with them, I think we're going to be in a pretty difficult situation when President Trump's term is up in 28.
Right. No, and I think it's where we started the interview, and it's where we're going to end it. Katie Zacharia, it's always great to see you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
All right. We're going to be right back, everybody.